All right, guys, welcome back to another video. It's been a crazy week in terms of gaming news as it seemingly is continuing with this whole restructuring of the gaming industry. And it is not stopping now as we have a bunch of stuff to talk about today. But before we do jump into it, if it is your first time here, you enjoy daily gaming content Monday to Friday, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you've been watching for a while, which I see a lot of you have been, and you like the content, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. But let's start off here. Let's talk about Toys for Bob. Toys for Bob is known for the Crashes and the Spyros, especially what they did with those remakes with the Spyro Reignited series and the Crash remakes. Just great stuff that they have created. I love the games that they have been putting out. And it was one of those studios that when the ABK deal was announced, I was most excited for, because just the styles of games that they make, they would be going over to Xbox. I was thinking they would be able to become just more creatively independent to kind of do what they wanted to do rather than being a support studio for Call of Duty. And it looks like with this announcement here, that is going to occur. And I think this is actually a very good announcement for gamers. And that is Toys for Bob is going completely independent. So this was a out of nowhere announcement. I don't think anybody saw this one coming, but they put out this post on their website saying, "We're thrilled to announce that Toys for Bob is spinning off as an independent game development studio. Over the years, we've inspired love, joy, and laughter for the inner child in all gamers. We pioneered new IP and hardware technologies in Skylanders. We raised the bar for best-in-class remasters in the Spyro Reignited trilogy. We've taken Crash Bandicoot to innovative, critically acclaimed new heights. With the same enthusiasm and passion, we believe that now is the time to take the studio and our future games to the next level. This opportunity allows us to return to our roots of being a small and nimble studio. To make this news even more exciting, we're exploring a possible partnership between our new studio and Microsoft. And while we're in the early days of developing our next new game and a ways away from making any announcements, our team is excited to develop new stories, new characters, and new gameplay experiences. Our friends at Activision and Microsoft have been extremely supportive of our new direction, and we're confident that we will continue to work closely together as a part of our future. So keep your horns on and your eyes out for more news. Thank you to our community of players for always supporting us through our journey. We can't wait to share updates on our new adventure as an indie studio. Talk to you soon." So that's the announcement. They are going fully independent. As they say here, they have the support from Activision, they have the support from Microsoft, and that they are going to be exploring possible partnerships between their new studio and Microsoft themselves. So I think this is great. I think this is a good thing. It really does allow Toys for Bob to go out, be creative, make what they want to make rather than being forced to make stuff that, or even just work on games that they probably don't really want to work on based off of their portfolio of work. So the other question here is the Spyro, the Crash IPs. What happens to those? Well, those I believe are still owned by Xbox and Microsoft, so you can most likely still see those games dropping into Xbox Game Pass. But when it comes to a partnership, it just makes complete sense. They're going to want to continue to work with Microsoft to get access to the Crash and Spyro IPs, to be licensed out to them to create those games. And if Microsoft was smart, they would definitely want Toys for Bob making those games. So cool to see here. And I mean, even if they decide, hey, maybe Toys for Bob is a studio that could revitalize and remake a Banjo and Kazooie game, that's something you could definitely see in the future if they do grow out that partnership. But again, I think this is a good thing. I think this is a win for everybody. It's a win for Game Pass because you can still get those older games into the service. It's a win for Toys for Bob. They get to go off and go do what they want to do. And it's a win, I would say, for the employees that may not be in the future subject to even more cutbacks and layoffs that we are seeing because of the fact of the industry just completely restructuring. As we know, Toys for Bob was affected as well with those initial cuts that Microsoft went through after the ABK acquisition. All right. Let's jump over here. Let's talk about some new technologies that are going to be shown off at GDC, specifically from Microsoft. And this new technology could potentially be utilized in the future of the Xbox consoles. And that is DirectSR super resolutions graphics tech, which is those techs like DLSX, the XeSS from Intel, the Fidelity FX from AMD. So here is what this says. The latest version of DirectX, known as DirectX 12, enabled improvements such as ray tracing, variable rate shading, mesh shaders, and other features that result in more photorealistic graphics. A lot of these improvements have generally focused on higher end computers and visuals, but this latest one could bring benefits to gamers on the lower end of the spectrum too, and perhaps even the Xbox Series S consoles. And Joshua Tucker from the DirectX team revealed DirectSR, SR meaning super resolution, which is set to debut at GDC 2024 on March 21st. And here's what he says. We're thrilled to announce DirectSR, our new API designed in partnership with GPU hardware vendors to enable seamless integration of super resolution into the next generation of games. Super resolution is a cutting-edge technique that increases the resolution and visual quality in games. DirectSR is the missing link developers have been waiting for when approaching SR integration, providing a smoother, more efficient experience that scales across hardware. So this type of technology is very important to keep these lower end PCs, these lower end consoles, being able to play the newer games with some decent performance. You utilize this technology and those games will run much better than if that tech wasn't there. And this was one of the things when it came to the Xbox Series S, I thought we were going to see a lot more of, at least by this point, especially with like the AMD Fidelity FX super resolution that is in there. But unfortunately, when it comes to the consoles, the developers just really don't utilize a lot of those tools that are available to them. And it's probably because they have to develop for so many different platforms. They may not just have the time to optimize the games with those tools implemented into them. But I do see this potentially being used on something like the Xbox Series S, and definitely going forward with the next generation of hardware for Xbox, specifically if they are making a handheld device. This will be something that will help games run better on that device. So I think this is cool to see. So March 21st is when they will be showing this off, and we'll see how this one stacks up to the likes of Nvidia DLSS and the AMD Fidelity FX, and even Intel's XeSS, which, as we know, Microsoft just struck a $15 billion deal to have the custom chips going forward to be made with Intel. We don't know exactly what that is for yet. Will that be for the next gen Xbox consoles? That is yet to be foreseen, but interesting stuff here going on in the hardware and the tools space, I guess you could say, from Microsoft. Now, just to end off some of this Xbox news here before we jump into some more of the industry restructuring news, Nvidia GeForce now just got its first Battle.net games from Blizzard. We know that the Blizzard, the Activision games are going to be dispersed across all these different cloud streaming platforms. Nvidia GeForce now is one of those. Now, previously, you could actually already access some of these Blizzard games via Nvidia GeForce now with Steam. But if you have these games with your Battle.net accounts, your Battle.net games, you can actually now access them with Nvidia GeForce now. And those games are Call of Duty HQ, Overwatch 2, Diablo 4, and Hearthstone. So that's what you've been waiting for. Now is that time for you to go ahead and access that. All right, let's jump over here. Let's talk about some crazy news, some big news here when it comes to the studios being acquired / sold. A major scandal, it sounds like, going down at Firesprite Studios from PlayStation, but and some more layoffs. But we'll start off here with Embracer Group. As the Embracer Group, as we know, has been, I think, just terrible for the industry over the last little while. They went out and purchased a bunch of stuff. They were supposed to strike a $2 billion worth of Saudi Arabia group, which fell through, which I think threw all of their plans out the window. So since then, they've really just been cutting games, closing studios, firing people. It's been absolutely brutal from the Embracer Group. But now there may be some hope here for a studio like Saber Interactive, as Embracer is reportedly selling Saber Interactive for $500 million to a group of private investors. It says the deal will result in Saber becoming a privately owned company with around 3,500 employees across the world. They reportedly are continuing their work on the remake of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic following this deal. As we know, Saber is now the studio that is working on the KOTOR remake, which in and of itself has been an absolute debacle since it was announced as a PlayStation 5 console exclusive. And we've heard about the collaboration with Saber and Aspire and just the game going back and forth between studios or something along those lines. It's been kind of convoluted as to what has been happening with the KOTOR remake, but Saber is currently working on it, and apparently they are going to continue to work on it after this deal does go through. For myself, KOTOR is a beloved game. One of the first games that really got me into RPGs on the original Xbox. And I'm worried of how this game is going to end up. So I'm almost kind of hoping that they don't continue to work on it. But maybe now that Saber is being sold off, maybe this will be a brighter future for the studio and for the game itself. So that is one thing that is happening at Embracer, selling off Saber. The other thing here is Gearbox. As we know, they are known for Borderlands. They've been thinking about selling Gearbox or doing something with it, maybe them going off independent. And it looks like they will actually be sold next month. It says here, it was recently reported that the Embracer Group is closing in on the final stages of a deal that'll see Gearbox sold from under the rapidly restructuring company. It has been claimed that Gearbox is closer than ever to being sold following suggestions last year that the company was being sized up for a few options, including independence from Embracer Group and a potential transfer. So Embracer is selling off some of their bigger studios, which I think at the end of the day is a good thing, because it's either that or Embracer is going to come in there probably and have lots of cutbacks and cancel games and just do this crazy restructuring to try to make back some of the money or try to cut some of the costs so they stop losing money. So we'll see what happens here with Gearbox going forward with the sale of that. And then we have some more layoffs here from Koken Interactive now, and that they are known for Deliver Us the Moon and Deliver Us Mars. Both games I've never played, but they put out an announcement here on Twitter saying that they're laying off 4 of their core team of 19 this month. So even the smallest teams, 19 people in this core team at Koken Interactive, they still have to lay off 4. And Cohen Dietman here, who is the CEO, game director, and founder of Koken Interactive, says, sadly, we've had to lay off 4 of our core team of 19 this month. This was decided after Paul and I, as management, already took significant pay cuts, even to the extent of not taking any salary at all the past few months. As leaders, when you are blessed to decide, plan, or do things from the company's top, you are also burdened with taking the first hit when things get tough. At least that's what Paul and I have always naturally drifted towards in rough waters. We try to protect the team as long as humanly possible. This is our most important responsibility as studio directors. If you have positions available in animation, 3D art, game design, and/or narrative, contact us so that we can introduce you to these amazing people, because this decision was not made because of who they are or what they do. These are great people that would have loved to keep with us for many years. We're fighters, and we fight every day to make sure this doesn't have to happen again. So there you have it. And I mean, this is such a different approach from the bigger studios. They're taking pay cuts to people at the top. Now, maybe people at the top of the bigger places took pay cuts. I very highly doubt that, as they went and just cut a bunch of people, hundreds of jobs at the major publishers. So a majorly different approach here, but it really is showing that this industry shrinkage, the effects are even hitting the smallest teams out there, where a team of 19 had to cut 4 of their core members because of everything that is happening right now. Okay, and we will end off talking about this because this is a pretty big report that did come out yesterday. And this has to do with PlayStation Studios' Firesprite, who is being accused of a toxic workplace. Now, a caveat to all this, as we know, there were 900 people at Sony laid off just recently. And you always see this happening right after layoffs, with people coming out and giving stories as their experiences. And a lot of the stories sometimes aren't very good. But this one here, although this is not very good, this isn't something that was in investigation after the layoffs occurred. This is actually in a report that apparently was in the works before all of these 900 employees being laid off and were announced and everything. So this would have more than likely come out even if those layoffs did not occur. But it says here that according to a new report from Eurogamer, staff at PlayStation Studio Firesprite claim it has suffered from a toxic workplace culture. Aside from general discontent, some sources for the investigation accused 2 senior leaders from Sony's support studio, XDev, of sexual discrimination and ageism, and this allegedly resulted in 13 grievance complaints submitted against them. Sony did an internal investigation. It came back from the investigation as basically just amounting to a misunderstanding. Now, Firesprite, they're known for their VR game Horizon Call of the Mountain, which is actually a great VR game, one of the few, I think the only first-party PSVR 2 game. They essentially didn't make any after that and just sent the PSVR 2 out to die. Unfortunately, I have the headset. It's a great headset technologically wise, so I'm happy they're bringing it to PC. It's just a shame that they haven't made more first-party games for it. They also contributed to the Playroom featuring Astrobot, which was a pack-in game for the PlayStation 5, and they're reportedly planning a new Astrobot game for 2024. Now, it says here, some of Eurogame's sources suggested that Sony's corporate view had altered company culture, and that the actual founders that had left were forced out by Sony rather than taking a voluntarily exit. An anonymous staff of Firesprite described the new leadership as tyrants and bullies. They say some staff were hesitant to speak up, somewhat reinforcing the alleged culture of fear. Today's report mentions a fear of reprisal. So this report here obviously is probably going to be developing even more, but there are some major issues here going on at Firesprite, toxic workplace. But I think the biggest thing out of this is that this all seemingly started changing when Sony did purchase Firesprite, as the big corporation coming in and obviously having a negative effect on this studio specifically. Now, again, this is all from anonymous sources. None of it is 100%. Of course, you have to keep that in mind. And we will sit back here and wait and see if there's any more comments on this and how much further this investigation goes. And if Sony actually comes out and comments on this, because they have not issued any official response whatsoever yet as to what is happening here at Firesprite. But I will end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.